It's relatively easy for all of us to acquire this understanding that we're speaking of here at a rational or intellectual level. It makes good sense, and I'm not in any way demeaning that. That is itself the understanding is a considerable achievement in our culture today. But it's another thing to feel it. In a way, it's we have to take the understanding into our hearts, out of our minds and into our hearts, so that we don't, so that not just our thoughts are aligned with this understanding. We don't just think in a way that is consistent with this understanding, but our emotions, our feelings are consistent with it. And then in time, our actions and relationships in the world are an expression of this understanding. So I think that feeling this is the deeper aspect of understanding. It's when understanding comes out of I don't mean this literally, the head and the heart, but I think you understand the context. It's when the understanding comes from our head into our heart. It penetrates more deeply into us, because really it's our feelings that govern the way we act and relate. Feelings override our thinking in most cases.
Bernardo, do you have anything to add to that, or shall I?
Very briefly, sometimes I feel, Rupert made a disclaimer, I don't mean this literally. Sometimes for me it feels quite literal. It comes down my throat, I feel
Yes.
it in the body, and it sinks into the chest, and
Yes.
there is a kind of warmth and vibration. It's very hard to explain, but it's almost, I think it, for me at least, it's almost literally that, this sinking into the body.
I mean, a lot of people do talk about kind of an opening of the heart. Actually, I watched a documentary about some people who were doing, seem to have really embraced this understanding through Qigong. And they spoke about this, it really penetrating their body, first and foremost, through the heart, an opening of the heart. Because obviously when you talk about feelings, it's difficult to, perhaps for some people, to really understand what that means in terms of understanding. Is it just a feeling of love? It's, how we feel when we do love someone, but we feel that exponentially and totally.
It's interesting that you mention Qigong, Simon, because that's a practice which is primarily a physical practice. It starts with a physical, although there is a deep understanding behind it. But you don't start off exploring your beliefs. You start moving, and that has an impact. It has a direct impact on the way we feel, and only later do we rationalize the experience. Most people, I would say, most of the people that I speak to consider these ideas rationally first, and only later do they sink into the body and penetrate our feelings. And then again later are they expressed in our actions and relationships. But Qigong is a very good example of a practice that doesn't start with exploring beliefs or investigating the nature of the self or investigating reality, but it starts with a movement practice which opens the heart and then later may or may not be rationalized.
I'm asking more questions than I planned to, but I'll continue just for the moment. So obviously, as you said, most people come to this understanding and understand it and read about it and watch YouTube videos, etc., and get that understanding. And then, so what is that process then of it going from the head to the heart? How can one hurry that along?
I'm sure Rupert will have a much more suitable answer than me. This has happened, not all the way, but it has happened to me. And to be very honest with you, I don't know how it happened. It just happened. I arrived at certain conceptual conclusions from just thinking about things logically and trying to examine my hidden assumptions and getting rid of them and replacing them with better inferences about what might be going on, and looking at laboratory evidence of all things from foundations of physics and the neuroscience of consciousness. And at some point, that story ties up so well. It is so neat. It avoids all the pitfalls that philosophy falls into in these days. That i- i- it's not a matter anymore of a hypothesis. You understand that, yeah, that's what's going on. It's not a big theory about all the dynamics of nature. It's an understanding about what nature is in essence, and it's an understanding that it's extremely compelling. And once you get to that full, unreserved conceptual acceptance that your conclusions are sound, over time, at least with me, they sunk in, and they started coloring everything. One of the biggest um changes was a tremendous increase in the degree of empathy and compassion, a felt understanding that my life is, again, not about me. And when I say this, I don't mean that I am irrelevant or that you are irrelevant or that people are irrelevant. On the contrary, we are instruments, and critical instruments for nature. But what you do with an instrument is not about the instrument. The instrument is a means to something, and that's what I think, and what I feel in my body, that my life is all about. It's not about me. I am an instrument, and it's precisely therein that I feel the meaning of my life, this inevitable meaning that, whether I see it or not, whether I believe it or not, whether I like it or not, it's there. My life is just bursting at the seams with meaning, because it's not about me, because it's about something bigger, much more encompassing than I am. And I'm just playing a tiny role in it. And that tiny role is what gives me this um, existentialist peace, peace in the existentialist sense, in the sense that I no longer, I used to many years ago, but I no longer wake up in the morning thinking, why am I alive? What am I doing? This is all for nothing. And then staying in bed because what I'm about to do has no meaning to me. That's gone. That place in the mind is a place I haven't visited in a very long time.